everybody? My name is Rhett. Carolina Takedown Talk here. We are with the man, Santonio Thompson, Mooresville grad, UNCG wrestling alum, Greco powerhouse here. Man, thanks for hopping on the show. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Dude, so we've talked a little bit off air. I've been really excited to do this interview and talk with you. Like I said, you were a part of that age group, like right before I came into high school, that kind of set the pace of what North Carolina wrestling was going to. And I really think that, your time period kind of set like that expectation of like kids going and pushing for more, going and wrestling in college, going to national events and stuff like that, And so I just, like I said, I've been super excited. And then your success after college, with me, I love freestyle Greco. And so that's one thing that we've really been pushing is trying to grow that in the state of North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
Trying to get kids. It's lock in hand season, man. Like we're here. The NCAA tournaments is going on right now. Which really quick, I know you're not an App State guy, but I got to give a shout out to our North Carolina boys up there, Caleb Smith and Flitz, both getting the wins, and Jonathan Milner, the App State boys. I know the Campbell's up there doing well. Gardner Webb had Mosley go through. I think he fell in the first round, but we got some North Carolina kids up there making some noise, pulling off upsets at the Division I national tournament. That's just what we love to see. So those guys, Milner was one of our first interviews that we ever did right after he got All-American last year. So we'll forever be grateful for him. And then Caleb Smith, if you haven't got to see him wrestle yet, he is super exciting. I've been talking about him the whole year. And
shout out to John Mark Bentley. Me and him have a little history. So I do like App State, that program. He has an amazing wrestling program.
Man, so John Mark got SoCon Coach of the Year, and I think he's in the running for National Coach of the Year. Mm-hmm. And I kind of stole this. I think it's from Josh LaRussa, who he was on that staff there. I got to admit, I stole it from him, but I've been running with it. Is John Mark Bentley's the best? He's the best developmental coach in the country. Mm-hmm. Like in my opinion, and especially for our North Carolina kids, like App State is North Carolina's program right now. The most North Carolina kids on a roster, and it's like, and they're finding success, so for me, I'm kind of like challenging, like, come on, Chapel Hill, like, come on, State, like NC or App State's over here putting out All-Americans. Like, what's your excuse? Like North Carolina is not that state anymore. That's like, why would we recruit there?
Not enough mountains.
Exactly. Like, let's go. We're here. We're doing this. And so sorry, like I said, I get off on tangents. I saw that big upset today over McKeith, Minnesota, and Smith, just super excited for those guys. And, like I said, I love that program, and trying to grow the sport here in North Carolina. We have the second most college programs in the country. Some people don't realize that.
I didn't realize that either.
Yeah. We have the second most from D1, D2, D3, NAIA, and JUCO.
Dang.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
I mean, you got
let's go to North Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are we doing? Everyone's like sleeping in North Carolina's wrestling state. Like, we are here. But man, so we had something in common. We both kind of grew up in that Charlotte, like Mooresville area. You said you wrestled at East Meck and then over at Mooresville, wrestled for the great. And I don't mean that sarcastically. I mean, he's the man, Ben Watson, legendary Ben Watson. Man, what was it like? Kind of, when did you start wrestling?
So I actually started wrestling in 7th grade. I didn't, I kind of late, wasn't really athletic, or I was into sports, but I just was not good at them. And I wasn't really athletic until I got further into high school and college.
I don't believe that now. I've seen you wrestle.
I know.
Don't lie to me.
It's crazy how we transform. But so I initially wanted to play basketball. I got cut from the basketball team, and I was walking away with my head down, and one of the coaches was just like, "Hey, anybody that didn't make the basketball team can come and wrestle." And it's just, I've been doing it ever since.
It's a wrap after that, huh?
Thank God I was good.
No, I hear you, man. So Was that in the times, because not everyone in the state has middle school wrestling. Did you guys have middle school wrestling there, or did you find a club?
So I was in Mooresville at that time. So
Yep.
I ended up being able to wrestle in middle school. And then when I went back to live with my mom for that 1 year that I was in Charlotte, I was a freshman already, and Charlotte does not offer middle school wrestling. So that
it's
for me
ridiculous.
helped me a lot. Oh yeah. But it's crazy because you still see a lot of good kids coming out of Charlotte.
I think it's a club scene down there, man. I really do.
Scene.
And that's one thing that we're going to talk about, a little bit later is, you with, as you can see behind you, Level Up Sports Performance, Level Up Wrestling Academy, bringing another club scene to the North Carolina area. The way I see it, like we were talking off air, is we can never have enough, right? Like we can't have enough variety of coaches of, I won't go into the full tangent that I went to off air, but I really think the best way I could put it is, if you're not looking at club coaches like you are kind of looking for a college team and finding that right fit, that stylist, that style fit, that personality, like that mental mindset. Like if it's not a good fit, then you need to find somewhere else, and it's just kind of, And so it's just
having that coach is definitely, I could say that going from North Carolina and then going back and forth from the training center and just having different coaches, world-class coaches. Some of my first coach actually didn't even wrestle, and I didn't know that until like 10 years later. He never wrestled at all, but he was my wrestling coach. And so, you see different stuff and hear different things from different coaches, and it just takes that one person to show you it in a different light, or kind of say it in a different tone, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I like this move. I can use this. I put this in my repertoire, and I think that's why you need exposure also, to different coaches and different aspects of wrestling too, not just freestyle or folk style or Greco, but you need to be, fluent in all of them.
No, I mean, exactly. Like for sure. No, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Like it just, and like I said off air, the club scene in North Carolina has never been better. Were you a part of a club coming up in high school?
I was, and like I said, when I didn't wrestle a lot, obviously. When I got to high school, I didn't start club until my sophomore year, and I can say that year I was with the Iredell Rattlers, and I was with the Mooresville Blue. I think they were the Gators. Then I think they would just call it the Gators. Gator wrestling, Gator Club wrestling.
Yeah.
That was when
it's so funny. Like all the clubs back then, it was like the Pinning Pythons, the Bandy's Trojans, which I think that's coming back. Trojan Wrestling Club, I think is what it is now.
Yeah, I think it is.
God, you had the Rhino Wrestling Club down near the beach. The Pal Pitbulls. I wrestled for the Pitbulls for a while. I had the Hopewell Titans, all them. Like, it's funny, all the different club names that were back in the day. And you were right around that like Rickion era, weren't you?
Yeah,
I did. That Rickion was kind of running the state.
My freshman year when I was at East Meck, I had one guy, Brian Snyder. I don't know if you know his name. Yeah. I think he ended up placing like third his senior year. But Brian was always at a Rickion. There was another kid from J.M. Robinson, I know, is like Devontae Angelhar or something like that. Yeah. Those were the two big names that I knew went to a Rickion, and obviously like technique and everything like that was fundamental for them. But I think for most kids, it was like, well, I don't have the money to go, to do this or whatever. And that's what. Right.
And that happens. Like that's just kind of, I hate to say it's part of it, but it's just, that's a hurdle, it's a hurdle that everyone kind of has to get through is, there's that, like everyone, I do believe everyone's doing it for the kids, but it's like, man, like people still have to make their living. Like,
they got to make a living too.
That's a whole nother,
We still got to keep the lights on.
Yeah, exactly, man. And so your high school career, so you, like you said, you wrestled at East Meck your freshman year, and then, then you moved to Mooresville. And so what was and the reason I'm asking this is, we had a conversation with Tanner Sewell, another North Carolina great. And he's started something called the Recruiting Accelerator now, where he's helping kids get recruited into colleges. Right. And one thing that we talked about was, everyone has this goal or this like mindset. And I love the mindset of like state champ or bust, right? Like you have to be a state champ to have success at any other level or to go wrestle in college or anything like that. Or you have to place high every year, whatever. And it's just not true. Like, it's not realistic because just like you said, and I hope I don't put this the wrong way, but like, you said like, hey, I wasn't athletic whenever I was younger, right? Like I wasn't good yet. I wasn't athletic until I was midway through high school. That happens to some kid. They're not athletic in high school until they get to college, and they hit college and they boom, everything hits, it clicks, they grow into their body, they start developing and everything else. And, some kids think that high school is the peak, that's all they have, and so what was your high school experience? What was your, it's like your accolades in high school and just, stuff like that. What was your high school experience like?
I can say now that I've had some time, hindsight's 2020.
Definitely. So, no doubt.
I can say once I got to, once I got to my senior year, I kind of realized that the 3 years prior were kind of like me underachieving. Not for lack of effort or anything like that. The work ethic was there, but I just was not confident like I needed to be in myself. And with wrestling, confidence is key. No doubt. This is literally 90% mental. It pays to be faster and stronger and everything else, but if you're not mentally where you need to be, you're just not going to be. You're not going to see results that you want. You can beat some people, but the really good guys, you're not going to be able to make it over that hump. And for me,
I wish more people realize that, man. It's just so many people, they only worry about the physical aspect of wrestling or, being in shape, right? Or learn technique and everything. And we kind of did a video before the state tournament of hey, here's 5 tips of, I don't know how many tips we did, I forgot, but of hey, here's how you can control a big tournament. And we're going to do one about the national tournament, about NCHS or NHSCAA's. I always get that one mixed up. Virginia Beach Nationals, high school nationals. We're going to try and do one about that of just you got to have a mindset for this isn't just going and wrestling at, the Tiger Classic, which is a great tournament, or, Holy Angel. This is a national tournament. It's tough because right now, you're out of the season, but you're going to wrestle in a huge tournament that you've got more eyes on you than you've had all year. Right.
Exactly.
And so, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I would say with that being added, one other thing, taking the sport more serious in high school. Yeah. I feel like for a lot of people, their first love is football because that you see football players, you see basketball players. Obviously, none
North
of us
Carolina.
were good enough to play basketball. Yeah, none of us were good enough to play basketball. So most of us like the football aspect. Tackle people and whatnot. So for me, I really love football, but I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't that athletic. I wasn't that big, and so I don't know if that was all that led to me not taking wrestling as serious. But my freshman year really was just okay, mediocre, maybe two over 500 for a record for my freshman year. And then sophomore year, I came back to Mooresville. I had obviously Ben Watson, really good coach. So he was there for me for 2 years. He really helped my mental being, becoming more mentally tough. Because, sometimes you're going to get your face, ripped off.
You're going to get beat up.
And it's just the fact of if you're tough enough to get through it and, keep going through the match. So I would say being with coach helped my mental toughness. And then it just so happened that Mooresville is, it's like the NASCAR Hall of Fame type deal. So it's a lot of, good country folk down here. So it's a lot of wrestling that goes on down here. And I had a lot of good practice partners, guys coming back from college that were always in the room, high school and middle school, right. So we had a lot of people that helped out, on top of that led to our success. And I feel as though that's the one reason why I've definitely tried to get back into coaching because, I did go away. I went to college. I wrestled at the Olympic Training Center, and I don't feel like I had as much time. I did get some time when I was back home, but I didn't have as much time as I wanted to give back to the guys that were coming up underneath me,
Definitely. No, yeah, for sure. How'd your junior and senior year end up?
Junior year, I ended up, I think I went 1-2 at states. I ended up losing to a kid from Trinity, I think, and another one. So I did, junior year, phased out. I had just literally missed sophomore year making the state championship, and then I got over that hurdle junior year, and then it was like coming into senior year, I just kind of got tired of getting to the finals and then losing. Like I could always make it to the finals of tournaments, and I would just either just flame out really bad in the finals or lose by 1 or 2. And I just kind of got tired of that. And senior year, I quit football. I didn't do track. I just wrestled all year. Like I said, I had started doing those tournaments and stuff and going to club teams since my sophomore year. And, we did, I think we did the Virginia Tech camp my senior year and instead of the App State, because we usually go to App State camp. And I got to see a lot of good competition there. A lot of live wrestling there at that camp. And it kind of just opened my mind, like going into my senior year, like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I think I want to take wrestling further than high school. And for me, unfortunately, that was my first time kind of thinking about it was, deep into my senior year, how far I wanted to take wrestling or how far wrestling could take me,
Yeah. No, I mean, exactly. And that's something that some people just don't like think about is, it's that mindset, that kind of switch of, how far can I go with wrestling? But just like you said, it's more of like, man, like how far can this sport take you? How far can it take you? So you wrap up senior year, right? And get a chance to go wrestle in college.
Yes. Senior year, I won a state championship. I was actually Mooresville's first 4A state champion. That was his first year. So we got our butt kicked in every sport that year. It was a lot. It was really tough to go into it like that. But so senior year, won a state championship and got some calls, went and did some tours, and really it was between App State for me, App State, UNC Greensboro, and Anderson, actually, South Carolina. Now, I think they actually discontinued their wrestling program not long after that, too.
Sadly, two of the three teams you've named are
two of the three
no
teams
longer around.
No longer around. So I ended up at UNC Greensboro with Coach Akitas, and unfortunately enough for me also, I ended up having a surgery on my shoulder my freshman year. So most of the year, I ended up having to sit out. I didn't get to train much. And when I did come back, literally, I think I was back for maybe a month. And they brought us in and told us they were getting rid of the wrestling team. And so at that point, I'm just in this, I don't know what to do with my life stage.
Man, what was that like? Like what? I just got to ask, like, cause I was in high school and I had the Save UNCG wrestling shirt and like everything was going on Facebook. And it's just like, and watching these guys and it's just like, man, like how I couldn't imagine.
I think
walking in like.
It was literally like somebody died. I remember speaking to one of the guys I wrestled with, Keith Brown. He's a state champion from out in Burlington. And I remember coming in and they told us, hey, we're going to have an announcement. We're going to bring everybody in and then we'll let you guys get back to practice. And when I came into the room and sat down, I looked around.
You get back to practice.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to go back to practice after this. So when they sat us down, I looked around and I said, hey, Keith, I think somebody died, man. I said, I can feel it. I said, the energy's bad here. I said, I think somebody died like close to the training staff and maybe they're bringing us in to let us know.
Yeah, just let you know.
And then here comes Kim Record. She sits down in front of us and just starts reading off a sheet of paper. She never looked up at us and never, locked eyes with us and just starts reading off a sheet of paper. And as she's getting through it and you start kind of hearing, you're like, wait, discontinuing wrestling
is
program.
This happening, man?
Yeah, and we just got second in the conference that year. We won the conference the year before, and
people don't realize UNCG was solid, but like
we were pretty good.
And they had the big name guy, like y'all had Bullens, like we had talked about, like man, like Bullens, man, so much potential, like so much like talent. But just like I feel like in college just couldn't stay healthy. Like it's just
couldn't stay healthy. Yeah.
And that's another aspect of it, and that's another aspect of getting through the high school season as well is just 80% of it is
staying healthy.
You just gotta be healthy, man. Like you gotta be able to get to you gotta be able to get to the state tournament and be healthy. And if not, it's just and that's such a big game of it.
Exactly.
And especially whenever you get into a college room because like you can see guys that gosh, they could have been four-time All-Americans, but they just kept on having those little nagging injuries, or they couldn't come back from that one big one or whatever else it was. Exactly. Like you see guys with shoulders that's like, man, that guy could have been a monster, but just couldn't get healthy. And it's just
couldn't get healthy.
And that's part. I mean, that's college sports in general. That's professional sports. Some of the best guys can't continue because they can't stay healthy. Like they can't stay on the mat. And so they dropped the program. Like at that point, I mean, like life's kind of got to suck a little bit. Like you win a state title. You're at the highest of highs. You come in your freshman year. You got to have a surgery. That's a lot on like mental health and everything, but then you're coming back into your sophomore, you're like ready to roll, and they cut the program. So what's next? What came next for you?
Basically, I was lost for a while. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I just, coach had talked to us not too long after that announcement. I think it might've been the same day. Everything's kind of it was literally so emotional. Like I cried like one of my family members had died, because I'm thinking like I got a full ride. It's the end of the year, Nationals was literally in 2 days and all the money for every place has been given away. I don't have an option, really to go anywhere for free anymore. So it's like I stay here and go to school and just, be a student now, or I have to go and think about where I go with my grades / money, where could I afford to go? And so I was just really lost for a while. But like I said, Coach did sit us down and kind of said that he was going to start a Greco program. And like we talked about before I came on, I never wrestled Greco or freestyle. There was one day in practice where my assistant coach brought us in and was like, hey, we're going to teach you guys some Greco. And he threw me way too hard, too many times. and I was just,
I'm done out. I'm going back to referee's position. Yeah, I can't do this.
I was out on it at that point. So up until I was, I think I was 19. I think I was right at 19, almost 20 years old. And when I first started hearing about Greco and training Greco, and like I said, I didn't have a lot of options to go anywhere because financial background and everything like that. So I ended up staying there with Lakitas, and he literally just no, not low power. I'm so sorry. Okay,
you're good.
I ended up staying there with Lakitas, and in 2 years, I think it was right at 7 or 8 of us all together that stayed. And basically, he just opened up a gym with his own money. He trained us. We had our own schedule that we had set apart from, our class schedule, because we still had to maintain, grades and everything, because they were trying to take our money away as by any means possible. They tried to take our money away from us, man.
It's ridiculous how
it was crazy.
I swear they need to, like, ESPN doesn't love wrestling a lot, as we can all tell. They have been doing better. I'll give them this about the state area, about Division I nationals, covering almost every round, at least every championship round. But with all these 30 for 30s, like, I really think that like a 30 for 30 or something like that, a documentary, or maybe even Flow could do it, of like programs getting dropped and how insane they were, how short notice and just like ruined kids' lives, like ruined kids' like careers, because not everyone had the mental toughness or the opportunity that, to have a great coach like Lakitas that said like, hey, like, I'm here for y'all, and we're going to figure Lakitas is one of the best Greco coaches there are. I mean, he's still proving it with the Marine Wrestling Club.
Oh yeah.
He's been proving it. He's the man. And for him to be able, like, for you guys to have that right there, and for him to be able to say, like, hey, we're just gonna keep going, you got to, like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like, you got to be thankful, like, for that, like, for Lakitas, for a guy like that, and just to have that connection and like, and his drive and everything else. Cause who knows if you'd have found Greco, and who knows, who knows where we'd be, but
exactly.
So, I mean, it kind of sounds like they, kind of popped up one of the first RTCs before like RTCs were a thing.
Before there was a thing. And that's exactly what it was. We had, and we had our club team to kind of finance, him having to pay for all of us. Like I said, it was 7 or 8 grown adults, and he's flying us out places. He's, we're driving out to U.S. Opens and national tournaments and whatnot. And I'm pretty positive every last one of us all American within those next 2 years of him training us.
Wow.
So then, how many.
Talk about numbers. Talk about conversion rate.
Yeah, how many All-Americans he's had since then. So I'd love
to actually get that number. I'd love to actually try and do that research and see just how many he's had, because it's tough to argue that he's not one of the best Greco coaches that we have in the country. Not just in not just in the state from past, but in the country period. So you're at Greensboro, finding success, you All-American, finding kind of finding that love for Greco that, at first you were like, I hate this, which I think if you don't have that initial feeling with Greco, you're not doing it right. You're not being coached right. If you don't have a moment with Greco that you're like, I hate this, I don't want to do this, but people don't realize how good Greco makes you at everything else.
Oh yeah. You have to, when your only option is to score and you can't grab somebody's legs, it limits you to a certain degree, and you have to become more. You have to think of more ways to get people moving. Which, like I said, the guys that I've coached and any especially high school, middle school guys, the one thing I'm teaching is the importance of hand fighting and getting people out of positions, because. Obviously Greco is not as popular as freestyle, but if you watch the top freestyle guys, if you watch the Kyle Days, if you watch the Magic Mans, if you watch some of those guys, they hand fight like it's Greco, and it's so important, because a lot of those times, even the top 3 or 4 guys, one of them, they all might they might not necessarily be so much better talent wise. Yeah. But that one guy knows when to score, and he knows how to get people out of position, and that's just, it makes you that much better than the guy in front of you. And when you get to the worlds, things like that, national championships, that's what wins matches. It's those little differences, those subtle differences,
No, I mean, no doubt. And it's just, and I couldn't agree more with you, is that we have so many athletes in North Carolina. We talked about that a little bit off air too.
Oh yeah.
We have so many athletes in North Carolina that it's just like, man, if we could just teach some kids how to hand fight, get some kids wrestling Greco,
exactly.
That's been like our plea, I guess, right after the state tournament ended. I'm okay, right now, if kids aren't really wrestling a lot of freestyle and Greco, because they do have high school nationals coming up. If you're going to wrestle high school nationals, I'm like, not that anyone needs, my permission or anything like that, but I'm cool with you wrestling folks and still training that, because you still have a national event coming up for that. Yeah, but after that, if you're not wrestling freestyle and Greco, and if you're a club coach and you're not pushing your kids to wrestle freestyle and Greco, get out of their comfort zone, you're cheating them, in my opinion. Yeah. That's just,
it's just, it just is what it is. I would say that, like I said, I didn't do club up until I got into high school. And so if it was being taught at different club teams, I didn't know about it. But I, like I said, even when I did start doing club, I didn't, nobody talked about freestyle and Greco. Yeah. Which is crazy to think, because once you get past collegiate, that's all there is. It's freestyle, indoor, Greco. And,
right. That's what I was about to ask you.
Yeah. Yeah. No matter which you choose, it's just.
So how important to you is it that, at what age do you think kids should start wrestling freestyle and Greco? Do you think it's something that the youth clubs should start? And would have that foundation of, because for me, that foundation of hand fighting and positioning that you get from freestyle. Greco, competing in Greco. I don't know. Whenever I was growing up, there weren't Greco tournaments until you were in 7th, 8th grade, right? Mm-hmm. It's tough to get little kids to understand you can't touch a leg. It's tough to get some high school kids to understand you can't touch a leg, right? Yeah. But the hand positioning and everything, and just body positioning and body control of Greco, and then, going to freestyle and you're a good Greco wrestler, you're probably going to be pretty solid in freestyle too. You can it translates so much, and it translates to folk style too. So coaches don't understand. So, what age do you think that is the right time maybe to start training freestyle and Greco?
Well, now I can't solidify this information because it's just hearsay, but I've been told from the various coaches in places that I've been that in Russia, in the foreign places of Russia, Hungary, different places overseas, a lot of the cases they teach Greco first,
which are dominating normally. Here in the past few years, USA's kind of been growing. Like we've been catching like steam, and we've been getting momentum and getting better, and we've always been competing. But like Bulgaria, like you said, Hungary, Turkey, Uzbekistan, Russia, they've been dominating the international scene forever. And I think you're right. I think that's why.
And it's a big pool with freestyle. Yeah, we got a lot of world champions, but look at the pool we are drawing from. We're drawing from a very large pool of guys. Like if you've never wrestled Greco, then obviously once you win a national championship and you want to go compete still, your first thought isn't going to be to go to Greco. It's going to be to go to something that's more inclined to, what you've been doing before. But I would say that I've got to wrestle against some really high caliber freestyle guys. And I think being one dimensional is never a good thing because it's things like you see a lot of freestyle guys doing gut wrenches. Well, not necessarily even gut wrenches. You see a lot of freestyle guys when they take the guy down, they go for the leg lace, and if they don't get the leg lace, they stand them back up, right?
Yeah.
But they
kind of catch their breath there for a second.
But we forgot about the gut wrench, as if you can't use a gut wrench in freestyle, which is it's even easier to use a gut wrench in freestyle because I can kick you over with my leg as I'm gut wrenching you. Like it's so things like that kind of just overlap. I think for me, that's why I'm really thankful that I have Greco, that it was brought into my life, no matter how the wrestling career ended with everything, me going there and to Greensboro and that being basically the only place to learn it from the coach that I did. I wouldn't take any of it back because I literally, like I said, it's just made me an all around better wrestler. I can't say that, going into after I got beat up a whole bunch my freshman year coming into the summer, I can't say I was so confident. I won a state championship before. I only lost 5 matches, but after I was getting beat up by the 125s and I'm 149, my confidence was shot. And I understood that it was different levels to the competition now. The levels that I hadn't thought about. And if I hadn't been able to wrestle Greco, it made me basically scratch everything I knew from wrestling because it's, it is new, how you have to position your body, things that you have
learn
to
how to walk
yourself.
again. Yeah.
It was literally like that. And Daniel Owenby, actually, your guy, was one of the guys that, now he had wrestled at Fargo and stuff. So he wasn't an expert at Greco because, us North Carolina guys don't do it as much.
So me and Daniel Owenby came from the same club in Strong Courageous. And that's one thing that Norma Osteen, man, when high school state ended, we'd have those 2 weeks to get ready for high school nationals. And even in those 2 weeks, we'd have a freestyle and Greco practice in like he would mix them. We'd have half the practice in freestyle and Greco, and then we do the other half in folk style for the guys getting ready for high school nationals. But everyone else was doing freestyle Greco. And so, Daniel came from a club that, Osteen's another one of those guys that he's such a great Greco coach, but if you're in Strong Courageous, when the high school season ends, you go straight to freestyle Greco.
Yep.
Doesn't matter how old you are. You go into training freestyle Greco, and I think that's a big reason that Strong Courageous had the success that it did while it was still active.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think it just doesn't make sense now that I'm here and I've been able to see the top guys competing and being around top coaches. It just doesn't. It doesn't seem like it's going to help anybody out just to know folk style or just to know freestyle or just to know Greco. Like you have to train, between all of them because they feed into each other. Just like we were talking about earlier, being able to go to different coaching clinics and, different tournaments and stuff and just seeing and hearing things differently. Like the one thing that I learned once I started wrestling guys that were international, guys Hungary and Russia, they are not afraid to step in and throw you. And that was a big deal for me because I initially didn't like Greco because a lot of it was the pummeling and you're seeing the 1 point go behinds, takedowns and things like that. And the style of wrestler that I was a really big, take him to his back and get the fives and, things like that. Or, I naturally was a thrower in high school, even though I didn't do Greco.
Yeah.
But, I was into things like that. And so
some people just have it.
Yeah, and so trying to learn that was a little bit harder for me. But once I really got to understand, like, this is my position, this is how I keep myself safe. I know how to move this guy to get him out of position so I can score, and I know how to keep myself in position not to. For me specifically, Greco was something that, it did all those things for me because, like I said, I had to go to the scrapbook, just forget everything I ever knew and just had to relearn, and not be able to rely on my athleticism because if somebody gets in around your hips, it doesn't really matter how athletic you are to a certain degree. If they get their hands locked around your hips, you're probably going for a ride.
Yeah. You can only do so much whenever you get to that point. So Green, like I was saying, UNCG program gets dropped. You go in the All-American and Greco. How'd you end up in the Olympic Training Center?
So basically, right after that 2 years, I wrestled for Coach Akitas in the summer. And I trained. I didn't do really good at all that summer in Greco. Kind of just, came back in and next
took
year.
Your lumps.
We trained
your freshman year Greco. I mean, like if we're really looking at it, right? Like it's your freshman year high school all over again.
Yes.
And it's going to happen.
It was a learning experience. And when you get tired of getting thrown on your neck, you got to get better. And that's just how it was. It was just really scary. Being thrown
you had to learn how to survive.
Exactly. So just going into that second year, I ended up placing 7th at University Nationals. And that wasn't necessarily good enough to get my name kind of mentioned enough. So, the guys I was actually with, 2 of the guys I was with, wrestled. One of them wrestled for the Army, Caleb Williams. The other one wrestled for the Army and the Marine Corps, Jamel Johnson. They were kind of the big name guys, and they ended up placing like top 3, top 5 in the country. So I was kind of riding off their, skirt tails, holding on, and kind of got to go to the training center, and I wasn't.
Sometimes it's who you know, right?
Yes, it's who you know. I had to stay with guys off of the complex and guys from the Army because the Fort Carson's up there with the Army team, and so I had to do that for a while, and I finally kind of made that breakthrough my 3rd year going in. Not all the way into the 3rd year, but right there at the end of my 2nd year, ended up actually placing at the U.S. Open in 2013. I placed 5th there, and that's when I ended up getting a call. Basically, the coach called me and was like, "Hey, everybody's trying to figure out what they're doing next year. I know Kayla's going to Kayla and Jamila going to the Army, trying to figure out what you're going to be doing. And we got a call from the Olympic Training Center. They want you to come down there and compete and, be a full-time resident." And basically that's how it was. I ended up leaving Greensboro and going to wrestle in Colorado full-time.
Man, that's awesome. Kid from North Carolina, that's just a story that you love to hear because people think it's not possible, right? Like people think that you can't do it.
It's you know what I can say now that I've done it. I know personally it's probably 100 times more likely that you could get to a national championship or an All-American status wrestling, whether it's freestyle, folk style, Greco, or whatever. If you have certain things, that it would be to even make to be a starter on a D1 football program. Not even talking about making it to the NFL, but like something like that, like being top 5 in the country as a wrestler, because there's not a lot of people that do it already. There's when we look at it, it's just not. It's not a large pool of guys to go from. The wrestling world's a lot of small. We got a lot of names that overlap that we know that we haven't necessarily.
The wrestling world's small, man. It's crazy.
It's so much smaller, than you would think. And hopefully it is growing. We got a lot more women wrestlers now, and that's growing too. The program growing.
Sanction NC women's wrestling.
Oh yeah.
Sanction NC with I always got to throw that out there, and NCHSA they'll listen one day.
Yeah, my daughter's out there now. Yeah, we got her on a wrestling match. She's gonna be a good one.
There you go. Want to keep her eyes out for her future. Future another state champ there.
Oh yeah, yes sir.
So, man, just what was it like? And I guess gotta be a fan here, because that's the great thing that me and Ryan started this, that because we're just fans of it. What was it like being in that at the Olympic Training Center? Wrestling that room with the best in the country. And the best in the world. Being around those coaches.
The first time I saw Jordan Burroughs, Cale Sanderson, Rulon Gardner, a lot of people aren't going to know this name, but huge name, Jamil Byers, and Jamil.
Oh, I know Jamil.
If you're a wrestler, Jamil Byers.
Man. Royalty right there, man.
Oh my God, man! Just being able, it was. Seriously, the first 2 months, 3 months, maybe even, was just me getting over
being starstruck,
the hype of it all. Yeah, and just seeing because I got to see Michael Phelps. I'm at the Olympic Training Center. I'm seeing these Olympic athletes. I'm able to go and see the gold blocks that Muhammad Ali, his name on there. Bruce Jenner's name is on it. Things like that. And so. It kind of took me a while, and it took a lot of calls from coach just checking in on me hey, understand that you're here for a reason, not just to be there, but because your talent level shows them that it proves to them that you are there. You could be. You're
in the room with these guys for a reason.
You're not there to be their practice partner. He was just and so the way I want you to start thinking about stuff was when you come into that campus, you don't say oh, hey, show you the card. Hey, I'm home. This is my home now. This is where I train. I'm a monster. Basically.
Yeah, no.
And it's okay to be that. Once I really started understanding, wow, I have an ability. I'm not wrestling against him because he's freestyle, but Jordan Burroughs is right over there.
I'm in the same room with Burroughs.
I'm in the same room with these guys, and so
we're teammates. We're equals here.
Getting pummeled my sophomore and 8th grade year because I wasn't that good either then. Wrestling 8th grade I was a little bit better, but when I took some of those losses and thinking about walking off the mat, or even with some of the triumphs that I had, when I was younger wrestling. Nothing could have prepared me for being in that kind of situation, being where I was, a national qualifier, a world team qualifier, being able and just being that I remember going into the world team trials and thinking okay, it's just another tournament, but they got these lights on you and you're in a tunnel. They got you in this little curtain blocked off and they're announcing you. And it was just, the nerves for me, it was a lot. And I feel as though being exposed to those things at a younger age and having somebody in my corner, a coach, not saying that my coaches weren't in my corner. They obviously they were, and they did as much as me as they could. But having somebody if I had my dad was always, he's an older dad. He's 75. So he was always work. And then when you get out of high school, you work some more and then you retire at some point. Yeah. So having somebody like that was hey, you're pretty good at what you're doing, and you could take this further. This could take this further for you. And I did have an assistant coach that was like that with me, and he actually talked to me about making wrestling my vehicle, my mode of transportation. How do I see the world? How do I learn?
How far can wrestling take you?
Yeah. And it can take you so far. And keep in mind, I won one state championship. I won one state championship. I didn't place anymore in high school at all. I wasn't a middle school prodigy or anything like that. I was just, a state championship is huge. Obviously, I don't want to.
No, I understand. No, I understand what you're saying, and I really like the point that you're coming from. Is that and there's been a stigma around like Southeast wrestling, right? Like that we're only football states, we're only basketball state, right? Like here in North Carolina, we're baseball, football, and basketball state, right?
Exactly.
And I bet that, besides Jameer, like, man, you're probably the only North Carolina guy in that whole room that had ever walked foot into that room in a long time, or at least like been able to say like, hey, like I'm here and I'm here to compete, and I bet that was an adjustment for some of those guys of just like, where'd you go to school? Cornell, Penn State, Iowa. Where are you from? Mooresville. Like, like, and it's just one of those things like how, like, was there a sense of pride of that, of like, man, like I made it from North Carolina? Like, is there a sense of pride of like, you kind of put the state, like you put it on your back, like,
yeah, definitely. And like I said, like, it's crazy because Jamel Johnson, Kayla Williams, Terrence Zaleski, John Stefanowicz, these are all guys that wrestled either directly for him when in the Marine Corps or with him before. All those guys are All-Americans too. All those guys are from North Carolina, other than Kayla. Kayla's from Florida, actually. But all those guys are from North Carolina. And I'm sorry, I don't want to forget Eric Chandler too. He's a Florida guy also. But we all wrestle.
All good.
We're all from that small UNC Greensboro school. And so, we would all be at some of these tournaments together, exchanging information with guys, and that guy's a 3-timer, and that guy's and he went to this big D1 school, and we're like, man, we're here. Yeah. We're here. And so, and like I said, coach was just one of the biggest influential things for me, like I just always having my back and being more confident in myself. Like, hey man, like I understand you don't feel this though, because you haven't been doing this for that long. Yeah. That you don't think that you should be as successful. But that's not supposed to determine your success. Right. Like your skill set, your work ethic, that's what's going to determine your success, so kind
of you write your own story kind of deal.
Oh yeah.
So I guess a question for you, we talked a little bit, you said you didn't wrestle at Fargo, right? Yes, and I think that just kind of goes back to that era of coaches just not really knowing freestyle and Greco, and like the sport's kind of growing in the state and everything else. Do you think that kids now, one thing you say is like, hey, and I don't know if you've been to the state tournament here recently. I know you're kind of just getting back into the sport in the state, right? And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But, we started producing it a little more, right? Like started kind of hyping it up at the state tournament, the state finals. They get called out through the tunnel. A spotlight goes on them. They follow them out. Lights are going crazy, all that stuff. You go to Fargo, and for the placement rounds, all the lights in the whole Fargo Dome are off except for the spotlights on the placement matches. And then you've got, your big stage where they've got you behind that curtain, and you come out of the red corner and the blue corner. They got the smoke machine, they got the music. Do you think that even, because let's just be realistic, right? Like not every kid is going to make it to the Fargo finals or to the Fargo placing rounds, right? But one thing that I kind of use it as, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on it, is just seeing that environment and wrestling around it and wrestling around those names and around that competition at a young age, right? Like in high school. How much do you think that is beneficial, and how much do you think that would have been beneficial for you later on in your career whenever you made it to the world team, to the world team trials, to the US Open, things like that, where it's like, man, this is a huge deal. How much do you think that exposure to that level is beneficial to kids, and should they go do that? Like, how much does it help? And how much does it help even for like a kid that maybe hasn't got to the state tournament yet?
It's extremely important. I would say I remember specifically one of my best friends. He was wrestling in the state finals against a Lake Norman kid. I don't know if you remember Harrison Honeycutt.
Yes, monster, absolute monster.
My guy Prafe actually wrestled him in the finals. His I guess his sophomore junior year. But I just remember, him walking. I remember not being able to go down in the tunnel. First of all, because I didn't make the tournament of champions. I didn't place. So I remember being like, okay, man, I finally made it to the state championships because I don't know what it looks like. Everybody's always talking about it. And so many guys.
It's crazy.
And that's just one thing, seeing so many coaches and wrestlers and everything. You're like, whoa,
It's a whole new thing, man. Yeah. That's why I tell kids, when you're an 8th grader, go watch the state tournament. If you don't qualify your freshman year, go watch the state tournament. Get there, see the environment, understand the culture of the buzz of the state tournament. You know?
I think with some people, I feel like some people, very rare. I feel like for some people, the butterflies go away. Like, I'm so used to competing all the time. I compete all the time. I don't get nervous anymore when I compete. I just go compete. And I think for the majority of people, the butterflies are always going to be there. And it's just how they manage them. For me, I was so mental. Like I told you, like my mentality was not where it needed to be. And I could easily let myself get talked out of, out of being being in the moment. Yeah. And being where I needed to be, or thinking about the lights on me so much, or who's watching me. I'm not thinking about the guy that's kicking me with these, hitting me with these double legs all across the mat, So it definitely, for me, man, like having, like I said, like being there and just finally being able to see it and seeing one of my guys, like, man, just being out there and announced it. He's doing this little, victory lap around, before they go out there and do whatever. And me seeing him lose, and me, him being such a good friend of mine, like obviously, you feel that, man, like you feel that loss. And I knew it was over for him, because that was his senior year. But going into that next year, I knew I didn't want that feeling. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't, you know what I'm saying? Because I know how it felt.
I definitely get.
I know how it felt for me watching you having it, and not and putting all that work in and understanding that you did everything you could, and unfortunately, sometimes you still don't see the success that you want. Yeah. But
sometimes the cards just fall, and that's just how it happens. And that's the biggest thing that I want to try and get into more like mindset stuff and stuff like that. I just think there's like research that I want to do it correctly, right? I don't want to put bad information out there. I don't want to put bad content out, right? For the, our listeners and the kids that, we mainly have high school kids, but like, I think we're going to start growing to like the middle school, kids like watching and kind of things like that, of just like, I want to start kids preparing of like, hey, my big thing for like nationals, that I'll talk about in a video here soon is like, how do you face a top 100 kid? Yeah. Or like for a guy like you at the, at the US Open or at the World Team Trials, or even just at practice at, at the OTC, right? How do you step on a mat? Yeah. With a 2-time NCAA Division I national champ or a defending world team member, whatever. Do you go out there and go, oh my God, this guy's David Taylor. Like this guy's, like this guy's Kyle Davis. Like this dude. This dude's the real deal. Or do you sit there and you give them everything you absolutely have? Like at the OTC and in the practice room, like it's one thing because, you're just trying to get better. Right. And the only way you're going to get better is by pushing yourself and giving everything you have to wrestle, your workout partner. But like for high school kids at nationals and stuff like that, why are we not going out and giving everything we possibly have to the kid that's committed to Minnesota? Because who's watching you? You know who's watching you? Minnesota. Everybody. Because they're watching the kid that they just signed. So why not go out there and try and throw this kid on his head? Or why not go out there and try and get a quick takedown or get a good escape and make it a 3-4 match, right? Or even, try and beat this kid, but why not just try and have a great showing and use this opportunity? And how far can wrestling take you? I think that's kind of a theme of this like interview and like of just how far can wrestling really take you? And so it's just, like I said, I can go off on tangents, man. Like I love this stuff. I love the mental aspect of it. And everything, it's refreshing to see, but so a bit of a technical difficulties here. Oh, we're all good. We are back with, as we can see, Santonio. You go by Santonio or Tony?
Usually Tony. A lot of people call me Tony. Not that I don't like Santonio, but I think people just find it easier to call me Tony.
Yeah, man. So, like we were saying, trying to remember what we were talking about. So we were kind of talking about, the Olympic Training Center, being able to be up there, being a part of that. So you were up there for a while, right?
Yes. So basically ended up having a child in the process.
Congrats. Dad club, girl dads here. Girl dads.
Yep. So I ended up having a daughter. And actually the mother of my kids got pregnant right before I was getting down. So basically I was like, I'm not going to be able to be here for long. And, when I made the move, I was assuming that I would be able to financially support, a child and a house and be able to still compete and wrestle. And
tough.
It has seemed a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be.
The 1% can. And that's the tough, like, brutality of our sport, right?
Exactly.
Is that we don't really have anything. We don't have like a professional avenue unless you feel like getting punched in the face for a living. And then even then, everyone wants to do that now. It seems like any high school wrestler, you see them in an MMA gym now trying to go fight. And so, I don't know if you watched it, but the Rudis card that they put on.
Oh yeah, I saw that yesterday.
I'm thinking that maybe that might be a little bit of a future that might give some guys an avenue of, hey, here's what, maybe like an RPW. I don't know if you remember that, but like back in the day, we had a little bit of the RPW action. And I think it was just before its time, right? Like I think that RPW is just so like there wasn't streaming services like there are now. There wasn't I think Flow was around maybe then, but like very young, very beginning.
It was young
it wasn't Flow, right? Like it was like they were creating it, but RPW had some crazy matchups and everything else. Like, so hopefully maybe that might be something in the future that maybe people like Rudis or people like Flo and things like that might be able to kind of give these guys an opportunity. And I think with the streaming services and like the pay-per-view, like I think that the UFC, what they do, kind of sets that little bit of a groundwork maybe of like a blueprint maybe that we can possibly see that in the future. So, it's tough. So did you leave? Did you come back to North Carolina at that point from the training center? How'd that process go?
Yeah, so basically I left the training center. I ended up having another kid.
There you go.
I ended up having another child a year after that, and between injuries and things like that, and trying to get back into it, I had a lot of tattoos and stuff like that. So, and with the kids, it was kind of harder for me to get into the Marine Corps. It was a lot more strict to get into the Marine Corps back then.
Now they're kind of like, are you breathing?
Are you breathing? Yeah,
not really, but
So that for me kind of held me back a little bit. And basically, these last 5 years or so, 5 to 6 years, I've still been on and off competing. I did a lot of training. I want to say it was 2017. I ended up going to the U.S. Open, went 2-2 down there, but I pulled my hamstring in routes training. I was actually traveling back and forth to Jacksonville with Lakitas in the Marine Corps team. So, like I said, I pulled my hamstring and ended up having to bump up a weight class. But like I said, I still did went 2-2, did all right.
Winning matches.
So. And
most people, here's the thing is that, I mean, the crazy thing is like people hear that and they're like, oh, he took fit, like, Harry, went 2-2 or took fit. Like, did you wrestle in the U.S. Open? Like, I didn't wrestle in Greco in the U.S. Open. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of one of those, like, hold on, like, let me just, all right, like, hold on, did you train beside Jordan Burroughs? Did you, you know what I mean? Like, man, like, you paved the way. Like, and I don't think that you get enough credit for it, man. And I don't know if it's just that, like, of just being a younger guy, that just people haven't like realized it yet. But like, gosh, man, like people need to like pay attention. And like, that's why that was another reason I was so excited, whenever you said like, that you wanted to come on, that you'd like do an interview. I'm really new into the whole interview game and everything. Hopefully it hasn't been too painful.
No. It's been fine.
For me, it's just like with every journey, like there's a story, right? Like as cliche and whatever you want to call it, is there's a story that just, they don't get told. And, like, especially North Carolina ones, like you get guys that, like, they go and wrestle in high school and then, sometimes they go off to college, but you don't hear from them anymore. And, you don't hear like, or there's legendary coaches that we have that you just don't hear from. And there's guys like you that like that, if you weren't in that era, it might just be because Greco isn't really followed in North Carolina, whatever, but they're missing out because he paved a way. I don't know if you realize that, and I don't know if it's kind of something like that sits in or anything you think about because, I know you're still competing. You said you're going to the U.S. Open, which is awesome to hear. But like, I don't know if that's something you think about right now. And, it may not be because that might just be like a mental thing of like, hey, I'm still doing this, right? Like my book isn't done. I'm still writing chapters. But you have paved a way. And like, I want this interview for kids that see this, like you can do it from North Carolina. Like, oh yeah, you did it. It can be done, and that's just, and it takes one, like that's the kind of thing. Like you go back with like sanctioning girls wrestling in North Carolina, right? Like all it takes is that one. Evan Fitch was a big name for us that she goes in, wins a state title in the boys. Like it takes one. We're going to see it again, like we're going to see it's going to happen again at some point because she did it. Like that's just how, that's kind of how it happens. Like records are meant to be broken. It just takes somebody to break them. It takes somebody to set it, of course, but it takes somebody to break them. But once it's kind of broken, like it's like watching people run like marathons and stuff like that, like everyone's chasing that low time and then somebody hits it. And then the next year you see it broken again. It's like,
you see it broken again.
Yeah. It's hold on now. Like everybody was talking about how tough that is. It's like, no, it is tough, but they set the bar. Right. Yep. And that's what everyone started running after. And I don't want to say I'm tired. But I'm just like, I'm frustrated that our bar in North Carolina, like, why are we setting it so low?
It's a low bar because,
what's your thoughts on that?
We have, I can say that I didn't understand, like I said, I didn't understand wrestling outside of North Carolina because when I was younger, I wasn't able to travel a lot and see a lot of different
You weren't exposed to it.
But once I went to my first wrestling camp, and somebody was saying how they thought Pennsylvania was so, up north is just so much more tough. And I'm like, wait, what? So just because I'm from North Carolina, I'm supposed to not be as tough on the wrestling mat, And like I said, when you pulling from a large pool, so if there's a lot of schools that are offering, middle school wrestling or got club teams, in Pennsylvania, then it only makes sense that there's going to be a lot of good wrestlers coming out of Pennsylvania, more than there would be in North Carolina because, it just wasn't prominent. But now that it is, these club teams are coming up like they are. I think here in the last 10 years, we've definitely seen a lot more guys placing multiple times at Worlds and having multiple placers at the Worlds, and things like that. And so you can tell that we are having that success and we're moving in the right direction, but it's just gotta, it can always be better. It
always can be. And I think, it might just be, it might be a dumb mindset or a simple mindset, and it might be incorrect, but I think a lot of it is the bar, right? Like, why are we setting it so low? Why are we only trying to win state titles?
And I tell you what was really important for me. Like I said, those guys that I had before me, I was riding their coattails.
Yeah.
They specifically, I remember, like I said, Greensboro cut their wrestling program and we're just, going to school. So you still got to worry about rent if you're staying off campus, things like that. All kinds of stuff. I remember being so broke and living with on their floor, living with Kayla and Jamel on their floor. And we're training, like I said, outside of school, trying to get better and trying to do this Greco stuff now and eating Hot Pockets and all, ramen noodles, all that stuff like that. And then not making it to where I wanted to make it to that year and understanding I just hadn't practiced enough. I didn't have enough, Greco experience yet, but being able to see somebody that I was right beside, somebody that I'm eating with, you know what I'm saying? This is one of my brothers, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I trained beside him. I understood that eventually I would be, if I just kept working, especially with him, because he's kicking my butt. So if I keep on working with him, I'm probably gonna kick somebody else's butt real soon,
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, and it's all about like the company you keep, right? Like the company you keep can either, can either propel you or can either, hold you back.
Exactly.
And that's part of kind of growing up. I feel like a little bit, is learning that. So you're back in North Carolina now. Like you said, you're still competing, which is awesome, man. Like I can't wait to continue to follow you and everything. But you're kind of going into a new journey now of not only just an athlete still, but you're coaching now. Tell us about that. Tell us what you got going on.
So basically, for me, you want me to tell you about the experience it is, or you want me to tell you about the place, the facility so far?
Both.
Okay, so I'll talk about
floor's yours.
I talk about how I feel about coaching. Once you start getting better, and I didn't realize how important that I was to a lot of people back home. Like little kids and whatnot, because I didn't win a world championship, but I, being able to compete with some of those guys and coming back home and kids are asking for your autograph, or you're being like Frank Rader was still he was still the head of North Carolina wrestling, then before he passed away. And so, I got to do a lot of clinics and stuff like that with him. And that's when I really realized, like, as much as I love to compete and win, there's a certain feeling you get when you coach somebody something and they're able to do it, to perform it how you coached them, and you can sit there and say, I taught him that. And now, like the older I get, like I said, I've always wanted to be the best wrestler I could be. But where I feel like I give back is I will always like trying to find getting real deep here.
Oh yeah, I love it.
I ask a lot of times, like, what's the meaning of life? Like, why are we here? Well, what's our purpose? What we put here for? Like, to make a lot of money. Well, then people to make a lot of money die, and everybody sees the same fate. And I think the most important thing for me having conversations with my dad was like, hey, what are you able to do for somebody else? Like, what are you able to give, somebody else? Like, there's a kid, and I remember him talking to me about this, Tony. He was like, hey, as good as you are, he said, there's somebody that's 16 with your amount of talent right now, and all he needs is you to coach him.
Yep.
And he's going to be the best in the world. And he said, Santonio, once you give him that, he's going to give that information to somebody else. And I will always be able to be here, like through my teaching. So like for
your
me,
footprint will always be in North Carolina wrestling.
I've found what I want to do with myself, because I understand like money for me has always just been like hey, you need money to do stuff, to have nice things, to go on vacations, whatnot. But you can make a lot of money doing anything. You can make a lot of money doing things that you don't like to do. And so the job that I have now provides me to make enough money to where now, if I want to coach and it's not bringing in money, but I'm able to coach and give another kid, like I know how influential it was for me, for guys from high school and from college to come back and give that information and whatnot, and kind of just help us. And I don't want it to be I'm the reason that somebody else didn't succeed. I wouldn't be able to put it on myself and point the finger directly at myself, but saying that I'm in this area and not helping. I'm sorry. Do you hear this dog?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. It's all good.
I'm just gonna remove myself just real quick. I'm so sorry.
We're going on a trip here. Get a facility tour.
They heard me. Yeah, he heard me by the door, and he's like, "Oh, there's somebody here. I'm just gonna keep on barking."
There you go. Getting a quick facility tour as well here. Baby. 2 and 1. Yeah, level up.
Freaking a-holes. I can't believe it. Just now. And I just took somebody's charger, but it is. So.
We just witnessed the theft, everyone. I'm just kidding.
We're all in this together.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, so I've known for a while, once I came home and started, doing little coaching things and I
it's
knew,
addicting,
like,
man.
Yeah, I was like, man, this is this is something else. And these kids are calling me coach. You know, it makes you feel a certain type of way that, you know, having that respect, having someone look up to you for knowledge, you know, and guidance, and being able to just be helpful, you know, because, you know, you were a young man, you know, you were a younger man than you are at one point.
Let's say I'm still pretty young.
yeah.
I don't feel like it, but, you know, I still am.
You know, and so
No, man. I 100% get it. I mean, like I remember, like I said, watching like your age group, because you graduated right before I came into high school, and you know, watching your age group and growing up, like I said, I grew up in Charlotte before I moved to the mountains, and like right around the like end of 8th grade and like high school area, you know, time frame, I guess. And so growing up around a lot of like the names that I grew up around in Charlotte and seeing those role models, and then, you know, getting to wrestle for Strong Courageous, but then like also being around my brother who, you know, wrestled at King, wrestled at UNCG, and, you know, him coming back and being around those guys, and, you know, getting to be around, you know, some of your teammates, and being around like that culture of just like of knowledge everywhere, you know, and it's, and I think we're seeing it a lot more now as well, of just like these big names and these guys that found success, that they're coming back and they're pouring back into the state. And that's what has to happen. Yep. You know, it's the cliche from, you know, the best Disney movie ever made. You know, anybody can come fight me on it, but, you know, the cliche of Lion King, like that circle of life, right? Like that's the circle of life of wrestling, is that, you know, if the best guys we ever have just leave the state and they never come back, and then, or they come back and they don't help at all, like, how are we going to continue to grow? You know, like how, and it's guys like you know, it's like, you know, it's guys like the McIntoshes that are giving back, you know, you know, it's guys like Boomer Boyd, you know, it's like, you know, the list can go on and on, you know, like, the list can go on and on and on, you know, Tanner Sewell, you know, he's not just doing it in North Carolina, he's doing it nationally, but, you know, it's the same deal. And, you know, I hate to even drop names, cause, you know, I'm not going to say all of them, because we'd be sitting here for hours. Right. But, you know, these guys come back and making a difference in the state, that's what's going to start, you know, or continue our progression. I don't want to say start, because I think that North Carolina is on the rise, you know, and that's not just because I do a North Carolina wrestling podcast, right? Like, or, you know, in YouTube show, I'm like, you know, we cover North Carolina wrestling for fun. Like, you know, we both have full-time jobs. We do this on the side because we love this, you know, but I think we're on the rise. Like, I really do think that we have guys that if they go and compete at national tournaments, and I think that's going to be the biggest question, is getting those kids, getting those kids from the state tournament. Yeah. Getting those kids from the state tournament to Super 32. There's no reason kids don't go to Super 32. It's in Greensboro. I mean, the only, like, and they're like, there's kids that, you know, they play football. That's tough to go to Super 32 and wrestle and play football. So like, I understand that one, but like, if you're not a 2-sport athlete, you're not playing anything in the fall,
just wrestling.
Why are you not wrestling at Super 32? I don't care if you go and go 0-2. You might wrestle a 4-time state champ from Pennsylvania or a 4-time Ohio State champ that might beat your head into the ground, but you are going to be better. Like that's the plain and simple.
Yeah,
like
you can take something away from it.
The truth. Why are we not going to, you know, U16, like to the world team trials? Why, like, you know, Joe Seeley, who's a big name in the state, that left and he went to Wyoming Sim, you know, which you can't blame him. Like, he had an awesome opportunity to go get the best workout partners he could. Right. You know, but he's going up there and he's finding success. Why are we not pushing that? Why are we not sending every state champ that we have to Fargo? And I know that there are different, like, I know there's different scenarios, you know, like that traveling the country is it's not cheap. Not everyone can do it, but you know, there are like, there's so much, like there's so many resources now. And I really think that clubs are another great resource for that, is that, you know, like there's assistance, like, you know, it's just, and that might be something that I can try and reach out to. It's like North Carolina USA Wrestling, and try and, you know, how do we like advertise this more? How do we make this successful? Like, you know, how do we do everything that we need to do to get these kids wrestling? Because if we don't continue to put them on a national level, then we're not going to continue to grow. Like we're going to plateau and then we're going to go right back down, and every other state's going to keep on catching us because, or, you know, and past us, because if we're not going to compete with the best, then we're not going to see where we are. And we're just going to keep on being complacent with being a North Carolina state champ, which you know, in the big scheme of things, I'd rather have your resume after high school than a North Carolina state title, you know,
state championship. Yeah.
And it's one of those things that you see guys like Mike Mock, you know, wins the national title for NC State. You see guys like Milner. You see guys, you know, like these guys from North Carolina that, you know, may not win a state title, may not be monsters in high school, but they work. Go and they work and they keep competing and they go on national levels. Like Mike Mock is still wrestling on on the national level, on the international level, you know, like, and he is Sun Valley, like North Carolina native.
Yeah.
You know, like you are still out here wrestling on an international level. Like it can be done. Why are we not pushing that? Like, why is that not the bar? And it's not the bar for everybody. And that's part, you know, that's part of it. But there are kids in the state that it's like, you could get there. Like if you want to get there, you can get there. And
you want to get there.
Yeah. So
realistically, just be coachable. I feel like, you know, there's a lot of kids that can get there if you're just coachable, you know, just be coachable and have good work ethic and put in the time, and eventually the results will be there, you know?
No, exactly. So you told us a little bit about, you know, your feelings on coaching and in kind of your philosophy, your mindset going into the new, I don't want to say the new step of your career, the new part, because you're still competing. Like you're still trying, you know, like you're still in the thick of it, but you're giving back at the same time, which is awesome. So talk about, you know, your club, like the facility, like you've told us about the mindset and the coaching part. Now tell us about where you coach and, you know, what you do, about you guys.
Yeah. So we're set up in the heart of Mooresville. And I actually, the owner of the gym, Amanda Allison, she actually is a graduate. She graduated with me at Mooresville Senior High. So, you know, we got a lot of history together. So
there you go.
She actually opened the gym and she's been running it for a while. And here in the last few months, she kind of reached out to me, and I'd already kind of been putting it in different people's ears about me trying to, because like I said, I know I've been wanting to coach. So I was, you know, kind of putting it in different people's ears. And this summer I was going to be trying to probably do predominantly some Greco and freestyle stuff, you know, with some of the high school guys around the area, or if anybody else needed extra help, but that I would definitely be going to the coaching realm. And it just so happened that, you know, she reached out to me, and basically I have now my own, you know, my own space here at the gym that we have. And we offer, you know, we wrestle, but we do the weightlifting, you know, we do weight training. She does the volleyball, you know, anything else that we got here. We got a lot of stuff in the facility. They do soccer and everything. It's basically, we're trying to make it, you know, a one-stop shop, but every trainer that we have is specific in something. You know, they're an expert in it. Like Amanda, like I said, she does the volleyball, but she played at a college level, you know, volleyball. So the things that she's teaching the kids that she's bringing in, the high schoolers, the elementary kids, or, you know, middle school kids, we're able to understand what it's going to be like at a college level, you know, and further and provide that, you know, experience for the kids that we're bringing in and out of here, you know. So basically, my academy, I don't want it to for people to feel like it's just a club team for elementary or, you know, middle school kids or high school kids. But like, say if you were home, you know, I want everybody to hear about me as much as they can. Like, say if you're a college guy, because I know I was in this position, you're a college guy, you go to App State and you come home, or you're from, you know, you in Greensboro, where you're at, you know, you come home and you can't find good guys to wrestle with. You got to go back to the high school, you know, and wrestle with, you know, and wrestle with guys at high school. Give me a call, you know, somebody that can train you the way you need to be trained, somebody that's you know, physically able to give you good looks like you need them. Actual things the things that I'm going to be teaching you are things that are going to be used at the most elite level. You know, not so nothing. I don't want to train anybody anything that didn't work for me, that didn't work. You know what I'm saying? That I don't see success with internationally, because what's the point of us teaching? You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I get it. Yeah. If it's not working on the highest level, then why are we wasting our time?
Then why are we wasting our time with it? You know? And so basically I just want to be a pillar basically for anybody that's out there, you know, anybody, if it was, you know, some new beginners, you know, people, obviously younger kids, it would probably be more helpful to that, you know, I want to take a wrestling class. I don't really know about it or whatever, but you know, it's I've had some adults hit me up like, hey, I saw that you started coaching and I thought about wrestling. I wrestled for a year back in high school. I just kind of want to, you know, get back into something, you know, stay in a little shape and do whatever. Like,
I think that's going to be even more like more common with like the like explosion of like jujitsu and stuff like that. I think that wrestling, like adult wrestling classes, are going to be pretty popular here soon, man. Like, you know, it's just, and that's just kind of the
getting more people, getting more people interested in it, you know, because obviously
that helps.
You know, wrestlers watch wrestling, but we need other people to watch wrestling, you know, because like I said, there's not that many of us, you know, out here. You know, I bet you of the guys, you know, Rudy's last night, I wonder how many actual wrestlers that are competing right now sat and took the time to watch that. You know, you know, so we gotta, by any means necessary, get as many people in, you know, get as many people to see the sport as we can, because you never know who's gonna be, you know, just
you're preaching to the choir, brother.
You know? You know?
You are preaching to the choir, man. Like, no doubt. It's just, and you never know who's going to be watching. You never and that's why we throw everything up on YouTube. And that's, you know, that's why we try and share it in as many groups as we can, is just because you never know what person might click on that goes, oh, that's a cool highlight video, you know, like that, you know, like that's a cool interview, like whatever. You know, it's growing the sport anyway, you know, by any means necessary for us. You know, it's grown it, and you know, wrestling, you know, there's another podcast made by this, so hopefully, you know, he doesn't get mad. You know, we've talked to him a few times, but you know, wrestling changed my life. Like, you know, wrestling changes lives. You know, wrestling was like, it was part of my family. Like, that's just it's what it is. You know, that was mine and my brother's bond with my dad. Like, that was just that was, you know, a big like, that's a huge foundation of the bond between me and my you know, my older brother was, you know, he wrestled in college, right? Like, got to that level, you know, was at a high level, and then passed it on to me. Right. Like, and so it's just like you said, you know, and again, like, it's that circle of life, right? Like, it's that passing it on, giving it back, and you know, paying it forward.
Exactly.
And it's just, man, like, if people, you know, it's just tough. Like, if people could, like, I just challenge someone to find something that they love as much as, like, as a dedicated wrestler loves this sport. You know, and it's like, we love this sport so much. It's like, please try it out. Like, you know, you can't come to the state tournament, to the state finals. I don't care if you've never watched a match before in your life. You can't come to the state finals, that Parade of Champions, or like, you know, or even the semis or the blood rounds, and just seeing kids, you know, or even just kids like at regionals, or winning a tournament or winning a match at the state tournament, that like that senior that never made it, that they wrestled in their first match at the state tournament and they won, and they just raised their hands in victory. They don't care if they win another match, right? Like, they got there. And it's just, that's the beauty of our sport, is like, it's so, you know, it's barbaric. Like, our sport, you know, like our sport it's brutal, you know, like we, you know, like, you beat each other up. Like, that's, it's kind of the goal. Like,
it's literally
but like, and it's kind of getting deep again, like we were saying, but like, there's so much beauty in our sport of just, you know, there's like, it's you and your opponent, and you're on a mat, like, and that's, and you work so much, you work for hours and years and years and years for 6 minutes, you know? And so it's just, I love it. Like I said, I can go on tangents, and we can sit here and talk for 3 hours, man. But you know, I know you got stuff to get to. You got probably to get trained, everything else. And man, like I said, I've really enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm new to the interview game, so hopefully it hasn't been too brutal for you.
That was good. It was good.
Man, thanks for coming on. Good luck with everything, with competing.
Thanks for having me.
And I can't wait to see the monsters that you train at Level Up.
Oh yes.
It's Level Up Wrestling Academy.
Yep, Level Up Wrestling Academy.
Okay.
And our website is Level Up
You're good.
Level Up Sports Performance. And then you can click on the link that I have our the actual Wrestling Academy on there. And like I said, man, all ages. I'm taking all ages. I'll send you over the flyer actually that we have now.
Okay.
Because my summer schedule will be different. I'll be offering more classes in the summer. But private sessions. If you want to just work on folk style, or if if it's certain areas of your work that you need to, or
if you want to be a Greco monster and drop bombs like Santonio Thompson,
or if you want,
right?
we can teach you that.
Exactly.
That, right there, the picture in your background, right there. That's what you.
There it is.
Do.
Yep, there it is. So, man, it's just and that's awesome. It's awesome that everything that you've done, you continue to do, and you're here giving back. And kind of like your dad was saying about you, like Lakitas was kind of that guy, you were like kind of that guy for Lakitas, right? Like you need to meet that coach, and you're going to find that kid. And one thing that's awesome is that Lakitas' blueprint stays alive in North Carolina here through you. Exactly. And so as somebody that knows Lakitas, I think that's pretty cool. And that's something that, that you should be proud of, that you carry on, the legacy of Jason Lakitas here in the state of North Carolina. UNCG can't take that from you. UNCG can't take that from Jason Lakitas. So he is still out here producing monsters.
They can't take my All-American status away from me either.
Yep, exactly. So man, thanks so much for coming on. We hope to talk with you again sometime. And, like we said, we're big fans. We'll always be watching the US Open and stuff like that. And we'll try and get down and do a facility tour sometime this summer, something like that. And we can't wait to see the monsters that you're going to produce, man.
Yes, sir. Iron sharpens iron.
There it is.